Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's class. We'll just give 5 more minutes for others to join in. Please do encourage your party members to join in the class today. Thank you very much. 5 more minutes and we start.
Good evening, everyone. I think 5 minutes has come and gone.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, once again. Happy New Year and welcome to 2023. This is our first class for the new year. And please remember, as you come in, you sign in with your name and your phone number and your name, your party, and your state. Thank you very much. So we begin now. I'll be reading the bio of the facilitator of today's class, Amina Miango. Amina Miango is a Nigerian trained lawyer, researcher, and trainer with over 7 years' experience working in election management and administration. Her research cuts across the electoral process, election legal framework, electoral dispute resolution, human rights, and compliance. She's passionate about free, fair, and credible elections, and believes the sound knowledge of electoral practices by citizens is a first step towards achieving that. She is a strong believer in the rule of law as a tool of justice and equality. So, ladies and gentlemen, our facilitator for today's class, Amina Nyango. Welcome, ma.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry. Let me apologize in advance because I may have to make the class a short one, but let's see how it goes because I traveled to Enugu and I'm still trying to settle down. I traveled to Enugu with my son, so we're still trying to settle down and all. The class was meant to be last week, but I was told that people needed to rest and all. So it was moved to today, and I'll try and cover up all my slides and then answer your questions before I run, because I have to run. I'm so tired. I'm really tired. So I was asked to come and speak on results collation, but like an Sabi lawyer, I decided to talk about a lot of other things because I don't know if it is covered in your other courses, and I think you should at least have a working knowledge of them. So instead of just going to results collation, I was like, okay, these people need to know about the electoral cycle. I don't know if they've been taught about that. They need to know about a lot of other things. So without wasting time, let me get to it. How many of us have participated in elections, like either as candidates or just going out to vote? Just say I have in the chat box. I'll look at the percentage. If you've participated in elections in the past, either as a voter, a candidate, observer, or any of those categories of people. Security. Okay. Okay. I have. Okay. Okay, so a lot of you have actually participated. We are 27 in class, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's still coming in. So yeah. So basically, if you participated in elections, it means you've at one point or the other encountered collation. But before we get to collation, there's something scholars who deal with election, there's a way they don't see election as a one-off activity. Yeah. They see election as a cycle made up of a lot of other activities. So when you go to vote on election day, the fact that there are so many activities that will have happened that have actually happened to accumulate into you voting. Yeah. So that is what scholars and researchers in the electoral cycle and political scientists call the electoral cycle. Basically, they are saying when you want to look at elections, when you want to study elections, when you want to work in elections, you need to take notice of the fact that it is a cycle made up of a number of activities. And because of the kind of events, yeah, and because election is like the center of this whole cycle, it is how it is like the main event, yeah. So there are other activities like nomination of candidates, review of electoral laws, like planning for the election, like voter education, registration of voters, and all of this, campaigns, they all make up activities in the cycle. So these same scholars divide that cycle into three. The post-election, the pre-election, and then the electoral period. So it's something you need to know. If you are doing a course like this, it's on election and politics. You should have knowledge that elections is not just elections, yeah? Elections is made up of a cycle of different activities, and it is called the electoral cycle. It's more appropriate to say the electoral cycle instead of election cycle. I prefer using the electoral cycle, yeah, because it is not just election, it's a whole lot of activities. So election is not a one-off activity, yeah? It is an event made up of different activities. A cycle divided into a cycle, sorry, hold on. A cycle divided into three broad segments. That is the pre-electoral, the electoral, and the post-electoral. The pre-electoral side of the cycle is made up of activities like budgeting, the election calendar, creating an election calendar for the elections. How many of you have seen, okay, INEC released a timetable for elections sometime last year. It is this timetable that is that is guiding every activity for this election, from party primaries. It is what gave the date, fixed a time for party primaries, resolution of disputes that arise from party primaries, nomination of candidates, submission of nomination of candidates by political parties, and so on, all the way to election day. So yes, drafting and release of this election calendar falls under pre-electoral activity. Training of staff, INEC have to train its staff. CSOs have to train their staff. Political parties will train their staff. Everybody, stakeholders, security will train their staff. So all these things also fall under that. Voter and civic education, registration of political parties, party financing, etc. Then you have the electoral time. When you've done all the other ones, you come to electoral period, which has to do with nomination of candidates, campaigns, voting, and then results. Then post-electoral, which also deal with review of the elections. Every time INEC conducts elections, after the elections, of course, they review. Even CSOs that do a lot of electoral work, they go back and they review. So all these activities, review of the elections, EMB reforms, that's reforms by INEC, whether, okay, do we need to, like the last electoral act that was passed, it reviewed some things in respect of INEC. For example, it said that release of funds for elections will happen a year before the election. It must be released at least a year before election. So these are part of the reviews, the EMB reforms, yeah? Legal framework reforms. We've been talking about the Electoral Act 2022, Electoral Act 2022. These are all some things that come under the post-electoral period and all. Delimitation of constituencies and so on and so forth. Now, even though we talk about the cycle, yeah, the cycle is not something that is fixed, like it's rigid and it cannot change. You'll find out that all these activities I've mentioned, I'm sure some of you have said, but some of them are happening at this moment, even though we are technically in the electoral part of the cycle. Yes, that is how it is. None of those activities are fixed. Yeah, some of them may start from post-election and enter election. Some will start during the electoral period and enter post-election. That's how it is. So none of them is fixed. That's why I said some of the activities in one part of the cycle may spill over to the other part. For example, from post-electoral to electoral. If you have any question, please just put it down and I will answer when I've gone through my slides. What just happened now? Okay. So, like I said earlier on, I mentioned under the electoral part, I mentioned nomination, campaign, voting, and results. Now, what we are discussing today is collation of results. So results is a part of electoral, the electoral cycle, like the part that says elections, yeah? And unlike other activities that may just spill over and enter another decision, voting and results, they are pretty rigid because they happen at a particular time, yeah? So collation of results is a part of the election part of the electoral cycle. So when we talk about results, election results, the whole point of election is for a winner to emerge. That's the whole point of election. If it wasn't so, then we'll probably be okay. That's the whole point of election. That's the cardinal, the foundation of every democracy. That, okay, at this point, at this fixed period, you will change leadership. And the way that leadership is changed is through elections. And the whole point of election is somebody must win the elections. Yeah. So results, election results are very, very important. And they must be managed in such a way that they are when in elections, in very efficient systems, yeah, it is usually said that you must, when you are managing election results, for the system to be said to be effective, it must be fast, it must be transparent, it must be accurate. And what do they mean by that? Basically, if an election result, if we vote today, by latest a few hours or maybe a day, we should be able to see results, at least to an extent, even if it's not everything, at least at some certain levels. That is what they mean by speed. Then transparency, it means that collation in a way must be seen to be transparent. That's even if you can't allow everybody into where you calculate election results, yeah, you should at least have some level of transparency, some level of checks, like having security agents, having agents representing candidates and political parties, having CSOs, having observers and all that. That's what they mean by it being transparent. And in some instances, showing it on TV, like we do here. Then accuracy. Election results must be seen to be accurate in that we can't have different numbers for a particular result. We can't have maybe one sheet of paper saying 20, and another one is saying 25, and another one is 30. That's unacceptable. So for election results to be acceptable, for an election result management system to be acceptable, to be effective, it must be fast, it must be transparent, and it must be accurate. Now, some of the ways you can improve this system is through the use of technology and doing like a hybrid system, manual and use of technology. Use of technology is very important. We'll come to that very much later. And also one of the components of election results management is also security of the results, then personnel and training. I think we'll come to all this later when you understand it better, when we've talked about collation and some of the problems under collation. That's when you understand how important these things are to collation. Now, let's get into our collation. So, what is collation of results? Can someone answer? Type into the box. What can you say is collation of results? What can you, what's collation of results? Can someone give us a brief definition? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, gathering of results, summarizing the results. Yes, yes, all of you are correct. Emily and Akolo, yes, both of you are correct. Both of you are correct. So, collation of results. Collation is a very important aspect of election day administration. Yeah, probably the most important, because it's one thing to vote. There's another thing to gather the results and all. Because without collation, if you don't collate results, there will be no winner. There will be no election results, yeah? So to me, it's not because I'm taking a course on collation that I think is the most important. To me, it is the most important part of election day administration. Some other people may disagree, but that's why I feel, because it is the foundation. Yeah, there's times that voting will go on well, and then collation will not. And when collation doesn't, the whole it affects the credibility of the whole process, of everything, every work that we've been that everyone has been doing for years to make sure that election happen. It affects the credibility of that whole process. So that's why I think that collation of results is one of the most important aspects of election day administration. A well-managed election process can be compromised where collation is not handled properly. Where collation is not done transparently and accurately, the credibility of the process will be questioned, leading to rejection of the results by stakeholders. I don't know if we remember 2007 election. The 2007 general elections is notorious for being the most tainted elections since Nigeria returned to democracy, that even the person that was voted came out and said that the election was flawed. That's how flawed the election was. And it's not because people didn't come out to vote. It's because after the collation was questionable, yeah? And because of that, a whole general election, if you know what entails general elections, you know how much we spend in general elections. We've all been here, we've had the budget. For general elections. Yeah, can you hear me? The number of people, can we hear me? Okay, great. So the number of the sheer, I don't know the word to use, of a general election. Yeah, the number of constituencies that have to thousands of polling units, millions of voters. Nigeria has one of the largest voting population in Africa. So imagine that number, and then the whole election is said to have been flawed. Like the person that was elected president came out and said, oh, okay, my election was flawed. So imagine that, yeah. And it was because of collation. So it is very important, very, very important. Collation is a brief definition of collation. Collation is the tabulation or summation of votes cast in an election. You see the INEC manual for election 2019. That's where collation was defined like this. And that is the link to get the booklet on collation. Now, collation can only take place in places appointed by INEC. See clause 44, regulations and guidelines for elections 2022. A political party cannot fix a place for collation. A religious body cannot say, okay, we want you to come and do collation here. The security agencies cannot say, we want you to come and do elections here. Only INEC can fix the place or places for collation. It can only happen in a place that INEC says, okay, this is where, and only INEC also can move collation to another place. I remember one time I was in the field, I think it was Kogi governorship election in 2019. And I was in a place where they decided that they wanted to fight or basically disrupt the process. So collation, every collation from RA to everything was done in one place. Yeah, so that's, and it was only INEC that was able to move it. So only INEC can move, set up a place for collation, and only INEC can change it. Yeah. Every collation officer appointed is a staff of INEC and shall abide by the oath of loyalty and neutrality provided under Section 26(1) of the Electoral Act 2020. This is what I mean. I'm not saying that it's only INEC staff that can do collation. I am saying once you are appointed as a collation officer, automatically you are a staff of INEC, or ad hoc staff, a staff of INEC for the period of which they are employed. And because you are a staff of INEC, by that appointment, you have to take the oath of loyalty and neutrality. That's what the law says. So I know some of you will be doing collation officer work. Once you take the oath of neutrality and loyalty, and you go and mess up, INEC will prosecute you. You need to be clear on this as elections are coming. As you carry your phone or your laptop and you apply for INEC work, remember that you'll be held up to the same standards they hold their staff to. Legal framework. Because I'm a lawyer, of course, I have to tell you about what the law says. And because election is a legal activity. Sorry, political scientists, I know you argue, but without laws saying, even if it's decree, even if it's during military regime, a decree is a type of law. So yes, without laws, you can't hold elections because that is the foundation. It is what the Constitution says. It is what the Electoral Act says. It is what INEC regulations and guidelines say that are the foundation of election. Without these laws, you cannot hold elections. It is because of the Constitution that we know that we ought to hold elections every 4 years. It is because of the Constitution that we know that for you to contest for president, you must be a certain age. For you to be governor, you must have certain qualifications. It is all in the Constitution. And when you breach any of these qualifications, the Constitution itself has a place. These are the reasons why a person can be disqualified. It is not me that said it. It is this book, the Holy Grail, that said it. That's the Constitution. So the Constitution is probably the most, Nigerian Constitution is the #1 law in Nigeria. It is from the Constitution that every law gets its legitimacy, every law gets its validity. So any law in Nigeria that decides to bend what the Constitution says, or decides to go contrary to what the Constitution says, automatically that law is null and void. That's what the Constitution says. So the Constitution, yeah, legal framework, electoral legal framework. The electoral legal framework, there are a lot more documents than these 3 that I outlined, because if you want to look into the electoral legal framework, Nigeria is a signatory to a lot of international conventions and documents that also provide for certain rights. Yeah. So you have to, when you are talking about the legal framework, all of that have to come to play too. Let's say the documents like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, all of them also provide for the right to vote and be voted for, the right to this, basically political rights, yeah? But if we start talking about that, we won't close this class today. So I'm going to restrict myself to the 3 that they sent me to talk about and leave the rest. If you want to get more knowledge, pick up the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, and the African Charter on Human and People's and Human Rights. Look at all of them. Look at the political rights outlined under those things. It's nice for knowledge, yeah? But we're going to talk about the 3, the Constitution, the Electoral Act, and INEC regulations. The Constitution, like I said, it's the document in which every other law takes its validity from Nigeria, yeah? So it is the law that sets up INEC. It is the law that provides for appointments of the INEC chairman, the national commissioners, which make up the commission of INEC. It is the law that sets up the appointment of resident electoral commissioners who are in charge of INEC state offices. It is also the law that gives INEC its powers, yeah? It says section 153 sets up INEC, yeah? Then section 14 and 15, part 1 schedule, paragraph 14 and 15. It's called paragraph, not section. Paragraphs 14 and 15, part 1, third schedule, now talks about the powers of INEC. INEC, the Independent Electoral Commission shall have the power to conduct elections, to register political parties, to monitor political parties, to conduct referendum, blah, 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 blah. Yes, so INEC gets its existence from the Constitution. It gets its powers from the Constitution. And beyond that, every election, for you to qualify, you must qualify based on what the Constitution says are qualifications for that office. Yeah. I want to read out something so that I'll make this point clearer. Mhm. So Section 131 of the Constitution, I read, it is what provides for qualification for a person to be qualified to contest for the office of president. It says, Section 131 says, a person shall be qualified for election to the office of president if A, he is a citizen of Nigeria by birth, B, he has attained the age of 35 years, C, he is a member of a political party and is sponsored by that political party, and D, he has been educated up to at least school certificate level or its equivalent. So, and then there's this part of the Electoral Act, the 2022 one. I forgot my Electoral Act at home. Like I said, I'm sorry. It was in my bag, but I think I removed it to check something, and I left it out of the bag. There is a part of the Electoral Act that says no political party. Please, if you have the Electoral Act, you can check. No political party can disqualify a candidate on grounds that are not provided in the Constitution. So a political party cannot decide that, oh, okay, you see, I was supposed to talk about collation. Now I've gone to legal framework and I'm giving you extra work. Sorry, I'm really sorry. I can leave this out and just continue, but it's all part of your education. Yeah, you need to know these things. So that part of the Electoral Act says no political party shall disqualify a candidate or upon grounds that are not provided by the Constitution. We know how our political parties have acted in the past. They'll just wake up and say, this person is not, maybe the person does not have a certain qualification, so we disqualify it. They will disqualify them. But the Constitution is saying anything that is not provided in the Constitution, don't go and disqualify somebody based on that ground. So yeah, that's the Constitution. The Constitution provides for a whole lot of things for elections. And it is also because of the Constitution that the National Assembly has the power to say, okay, because the Constitution provided for all these powers of INEC, but it did not break it down. Let us give ourselves a law that breaks down these powers of INEC, that provides for more. Yeah? And then they went ahead and said, oh, okay, let's give ourselves an electoral act. And they passed an electoral act. Before now, we were using the Electoral Act 2010. Before the Electoral Act 2010, we were using the Electoral Act 2006, and so on and so forth. Then they decided, okay, the Electoral Act 2010 is a little bit old school. Let's do something new. And they went ahead and did the Electoral Act 2022, which all of us started talking about and which all of us love. Or don't we love it? I think we do. We love it, yeah? Oh, we don't? Okay, people are ignoring me. Okay, so, yeah, so the National Assembly went ahead and enacted the Electoral Act 2022 because of the powers, their constitutional powers to make laws. Are we understanding? Should I keep talking? Okay. Okay, so then, remember I said the Constitution gives INEC certain powers. And one of those powers is that INEC can make regulations to aid it in performing its functions. So INEC sat down and said, okay, yeah, the Electoral Act is nice, it's good, it's a good law, but it still does not break down everything enough. We need to break it down so that we can implement it properly. Yeah. For example, you say INEC can use the smart card reader or any other technological device for accreditation and say, oh, INEC can transmit results in a way it deems fit. That doesn't explain anything. Yeah. INEC now decide, okay. Yeah, we want to use a technological device, but we don't want to use a smart card reader. And the law says we can use any other technological device. Okay, let's use the beavers. So in using the beavers, INEC has to break it down. So they go, okay, let's give ourselves regulations and guidelines for the conduct of election 2022. So because of the Electoral Act and the powers it has under the Constitution, and then what the Electoral Act provides, INEC goes ahead and gives itself regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections 2022 to further break down and to make it very easy to implement the Constitution and the Electoral Act. Are we together? And it is because of these three that form part of the electoral legal framework that we are able to vote, that we're able to say, oh, today is election day, because INEC gets its powers from this three and says, okay, let's provide a timetable. Let's provide this time for political party primaries. Let's provide this time for nomination of candidates. Let's provide this time for campaigns. And this is the day you are going to vote. It is because of the powers provided by the legal framework. Let's move on. And I think we should skip this. Now, let's talk about collation. Collation. Okay. So, like I said, now that INEC has powers, and INEC has given you timetable and says, okay, you can vote. I thought I said I was going to make this class short. It's almost 6 o'clock. Wow, okay. How many hours is this class meant to be, please? How many hours? 2 or 1? Aha. Okay, yay. All right then.
1 hour, ma.
All right. So let's go to levels of collation. Now, you remember I said the Constitution gives INEC all these beautiful powers, yeah? And INEC decides, oh, okay, let's use them to conduct elections. And then on election day, okay, you go out and vote. But it doesn't end there. There has to be a winner. That's why elections take place. If not, well, Abacha can stay forever. But this is why elections take place, because results must announce a winner. But for results to announce a winner, you must gather all of it together and make it tidy, make a total. And that's how we get our winner. And that's where collation starts. And depending on the position being contested for, there are different levels of collation. Yeah. So let's say Amarachi Ejiogo is contesting for Abuja Municipal Area Council councillor at the Abuja Municipal Council, and you are Kelechi's you are an agent for Kelechi. She appoints you as an agent, and then they finish voting at the polling unit. They count the ballot, and they calculate each party, APC, PDP, ZLP, and all. And after calculation, let's say AMAC has, let's say under Wuse ward, maybe there are like 50 polling units. Let's use 50. And at polling unit 1, they finish calculating all those numbers, and ZLP has 500 votes, yeah? At polling unit 2, APC has 20 votes. At polling unit 3, PDP came up on top, yeah? At polling unit D, maybe ZLP. At the end of the day, all these polling units, before you know who is winner, before you know whether Amarachi has won or not, all these results have to be calculated together. All the wards, all the polling units that make up Wuse ward. You can't sit down there and say, okay, they finished voting. Okay, what do you do with the results? You have to collate them. So that's where if it is for councillorship, a councillorship election, all you need to do to collate those results is to bring results from all the polling units that make up that registration area. You calculate them together. And Amarachi of ZLP scores 20,000 votes. It never reaches 20,000. I'm just using 20,000. 20,000 votes, and that's the highest votes. That's how you're able to say Amarachi has won the election. And for councillorship, collation will end at that registration area because councillors represent wards and registration areas. The reason why I said registration areas, INEC calls them registration areas, yeah? But state independent electoral commissions mostly call them wards. INEC too are that. Let me ask, how many independent electoral commissions, how many election management bodies do we have in Nigeria? We know what election management bodies are, yeah? Election management bodies are bodies that conduct elections. How many do we have in Nigeria? Any answer? 2? Okay, somebody said 1. Somebody said INEC. Okay. How many circums? How many are they? 36, okay. Okay, without wasting time. They're actually 37. 36 plus INEC. INEC is not an election management body. So yes, INEC plus the 36. DIMCA titles almost got it. So yes, INEC and ZERIOC. INEC and the 36 state independent electoral commission. So we have 37 EMBs in Nigeria as it is. Okay, let's continue. So for local government area election level of collation, usually, let's assume we it is for an election is for, say, don't forget, INEC only conducts local government elections at the FCT, and they call it area, because they are called area councils. INEC conducts elections into the area councils at that local level. Any other local government election is conducted by state independent electoral commissions. Please don't forget. That is why I'm able to use ward and councillor and local government chairman. It is because of the FCT area councils elections that INEC conducts. And apart from that, INEC conducts elections into the State House of Assembly, Federal House of Reps, so that's federal constituency, senatorial, states, that's governorship, and then presidential. So in fact, let me use a clean example. Let me use presidential election collation, because that one, I'm sure most of us have watched it on TV. So because if I want to break down all these ones, I may confuse you. It's a little bit technical because it's very technical. But if you've done elections, it's something you can actually remember. Yeah, collation. It's not a big deal, yeah? So let's talk about the presidential election results. That one is pretty simple. When you vote on the 25th of February, 2023, we're all going to be voting for a new president. Now, this is what is going to happen that day. This is how results will be collated that day. From the polling unit, the results will be collated at the presiding officers, our coppers, amazing people. They will go from polling units when everybody has finished voting and they've calculated. They'll carry those presidential election results from the polling unit. They'll take it to the registration area. At that level, all the results will come to the registration area where the polling units are under. And then the results for the presidential election will be collated, transmitted electronically because the law allows it now. And then a physical copy will be carried to the next level of collation, which is the local government level. Now, when you get to the local government level, all results from RAs, all the results from RAs will be taken to the local government level. Under all the RAs under that local government, they'll all bring the results, the presidential election results, and they'll calculate it, get a total. Let's say maybe from all the RAs, maybe the result for that local government is 10,000 or whatever for different political parties. They'll calculate it and take it to the next level. I'm talking about presidential elections, don't forget. So it goes from ward to local government, from local government to state. At the state level, all the results for presidential elections under that state, from each local government, remember you've already collated them from RAs, and then you already collated them from RAs, you carry them from RAs to local government. So now the local government one, you carry it to the state collation center. At that level, they'll collate all the local government results. They'll get it into the state collation results, transmit it electronically, and carry a hard copy. The reason why you are doing this hybrid system is so that they can compare the two results. And where there is a discrepancy, the transmitted one will take precedence. Because if you transmit, let's say you finish collating at state level, and let's say, which place does not have airport? Which state does not have airport? So, okay. Let's say you're coming from Nasarawa. Sorry, if you're from Nasarawa, I'm very sorry, but you don't have airports. Okay, you have airports, but it's a cargo airport, so you don't have airports. Anyway, you're coming from Lafia, which is the state capital, with the state result to Abuja, where the national collation for presidential election takes place. And then in Akwanga, they attack you and they say, change those numbers. Now you know, Akolo, now you know, airport no be airport too. So they attack you in Akwanga and they say, oh yeah, change that result for party ABC from 10,000 to 25,000 and reduce party CBA from 15,000 to 2,000. And you have to do it because they are holding gun at your head. You understand? And then you carry that result like that. And you bring it to Abuja and they compare. Maybe the one you get to Abuja, a party CAB had 50,000 votes. And then you are showing up with something that has 2,000 votes. Professor Yakub will now be looking at you and say, what happened? What happened along the way? So you see, if there's that kind of discrepancy, and then party ABC, of course, they don't want anybody to reduce their votes now. So that is why what do you call it? The Electoral Act knew that these people, they can be smart like that. So let's be smarter. So when there's a discrepancy, when there's a discrepancy, the transmitted results will take precedence because it was done immediately after collation. So that is how it is. So from the state, all the states will not carry all their results. I'm sure we remember that one because all of us watched 2015 elections. We watched 2019 elections at Abuja, where collation for presidential elections were being read state by state. That is collation. That is what collation is. So they will bring all the results from the 37 states. I said 37 because of the FCT. So bring the results, presidential elections, of course, FCT is regarded as a state. You don't want them to vote. Oh, wow. So they'll bring results from there, the 37 states, to they call it the presidential election result, the National Collation Center, Presidential Election Result Collation Center. It is at that point that you calculate all the results for each political party, for each candidate from all the states. And then the person with the highest votes, not just the highest vote, so the person with the constitutional requirements, like I outlined in my notes, which I'm going to send to you so that you read and get, you remember the Constitution says that apart from getting the majority of votes, a person must also get a required percentage, 25%, yes? Yeah, 25%. So a person must get a required percentage too. So for all of that, the INEC chairman is the collation officer for presidential elections. That's one of his jobs, to collate presidential election and then announce a winner. So once the results are collated, and then the person reaches the constitutional provided requirements, a winner is declared and returned. It is not enough in a presidential election that you get the highest number of votes. It is not enough. You have to jump all the hurdles that the Constitution lined up for you to become president. it should be somewhere here. And if it is not, we can just pick up the Constitution and read. I mean, we have presidential elections in a few weeks. So you need to know everything it entails. It's not enough so that you don't go and say, but this person got 10 million votes. Now, why is INEC not announcing them as winner? INEC has started, though. They want to turn this election. No, it is not enough. Apart from getting the number of votes, you also need to get 25% in 17, I think about 17 states or thereabout. No, it's more than 17 states. 2/3 is how many? 2/3 of 37. What's 2/3 of 37? I don't know math, so I'm a lawyer. Help me. 24, yes. But it's not just 24. The calculation is even more complicated than this. It's 24 and a fraction, one kind. Yeah. So yes, it has to happen that way. So that is collation for presidential election. For governorship election, the same thing happens. But because governorship is the state, a state is a constituency. So you have to stop the collation at the state level. Unlike the presidential election, where you have to carry the results from states to the National Collation Center. For governorship election, it stops at the state level. But the same principles of getting the required spread, like the presidential election, also applies to governorship elections. Having the majority votes is not enough. You must get the required constitutional spread, which is 2/3 of 25% of 2/3 of the local government. So if the state has 40, you calculate it one time. There's a way it is calculated. Then for senatorial elections, depending on how many local governments make up that senatorial district, collation will end it will start from registration area, go to local government, collate all the results from the registration areas at the local government. Then if there are, say, 5 local governments that make up that senatorial district, the results from all 5 local governments, they will now take it to the senatorial district collation center, where they will now collate all those results and then announce and declare a winner. For State House of Assembly, sometimes it's one local government, just that local government. So from the RA, it goes to the local government, and then from there, sometimes it's the same person that will declare and return a person. For reps, the same thing. So for the executive positions is pretty simple. It just goes from each level until it exhausts. For the legislative houses, depending on the number of local governments, making up the said constituency. So I think we've said that the collation officer we've said they will transmit some of the results. They'll transmit the results electronically, then carry the physical copies and take it to the next level. So basically, the thing, it is the Electoral Act 2022 that changed the system. Before, it was manual. Like you carry from one side to the other. Sometimes you hear that the results were attacked on the way, or the people that were traveling with the results had an accident. Like those things used to, freaky things, they'll just happen. So at least now it has changed a little. The transmitted results go forth first, while the physical copies, the original physical copies will follow at the back. So that's the beautiful thing about the new Electoral Act. It has improved the process, and it is much more effective. So when some of the things that happen during collation are, there's a result sheet where documents are collated. Where results are collated. Results are not just collated on a blackboard, just minus. No, they are actually formats, documents, legal documents that are provided for such. So once the collation officer finishes imputing all those results, they will now sign, date, and stamp them. Very important. Where a result sheet is not dated and signed and stamped, it will not be accepted in court. It will not be accepted in court. Very, very important. So it is not enough that the person has filled the result sheet, the collation officer. Please, if you're a collation officer, you know if you've done it before, or you are going to do it now, please remember, you must sign, date, and stamp. Any legal document that is not signed is a worthless paper. The courts have said it. So please sign, date, and stamp your this thing, and then get the agent to also countersign. But where an agent refuses to countersign, it doesn't affect the validity, really, because some may actually refuse to sign out of mischief. So you hand over on the collation results, the result sheet, sorry, and collation results document. It's filled in duplicates. So it's the original, the topmost one that you carry to the next level of collation. The one immediately after it is meant for INEC. Then the one after that one is meant for the police. It is only the police that are entitled to result sheets. Don't forget this. Sometimes when you go to the field, or when you are a collation officer, you see civil defense, even immigration, they want to collect, results sheets. Please, it is only police that are entitled. If they want to go and photocopy from police, now them sabi or snap picture. And if they want to snap picture, you can allow them snap, but to give them, it's only police that is entitled to it. So you distribute copies of the forms to the polling agents and the police. You implement any other result management procedure as prescribed by by INEC with the assistance of the Collation Support and Result Verification System Officer, or RATEC. You electronically transmit or transfer the result directly to the next level of commission as prescribed by the commission. Then you take the original copies of the results, that's the topmost copy that I said, to the presidential collation officer at the state level. That's if it's from the local government. The same process starts at the next level, and so on and so forth. Okay, I actually have it though. So should we talk about how to determine if a person is returned as president, or you will just read it later? Should we? If I get 5 yeses, I think we've mentioned this, so I don't think it's something we need to go over again? So that we can have time for questions. Should we or should we not? Okay. So let's move on. All right. Oh, you said we should. Xerox said yes, we should. We should, or yes, we shouldn't. Okay, English is hard. Okay. Okay. Let me breeze through. How to determine if a person is returned as president? Okay, where there are two presidential candidates. Remember, the constitution is very. I remember my constitutional law lecturer at master's level. He said Nigerian constitution is the only constitution that in the world that is really explicit. And I understand what he means. Our constitution is it's detailed. Yeah, it is flawed. I'm not about to say the constitution is not flawed, but it is so detailed. For example, sure you think that when a person is returned as president, you think, okay, the constitution will just give instances where there are multiple presidents, multiple candidates. No, the constitution actually took its time, and we'll come to a time in our life where there'll be only one presidential candidate. Okay, I can dream, but well, maybe one day it will happen. So there's a part where the constitution says if it is only one person that nominated, and he has to get a number of years votes, blah 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 blah. But we're talking about here, we'll deal with where there are two or more. Yeah. So where there are two presidential candidates, a person shall be duly elected. A, he has the majority of votes cast at the election. B, he has not less than 1/4 of the vote cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the FCT. That's where that 24.7 blah 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 comes in, because that is how you calculate it. So where there are more than two candidates, a person shall be duly elected where A, he has the highest number of votes cast at the election, and B, each or at least 2/3 of all states in the Federation and the FCT. The same calculation. So you can see section 134 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. Who are the persons allowed into collation areas? Definitely not everybody. Imagine a small hall, and then you say, oh, okay, anybody from all the polling units can enter. That's chaos, yeah? So because of that, under the INEC guidelines, a few people are allowed into the collation areas, and they are INEC officials on election duty, security agents, candidates or their accredited agents, accredited media, accredited observers, domestic and foreign. Personal staff of collation officers are prohibited from collation centers. So if you're a professor of whatever, or doctor of whatever, and you want to do collation and your PA is there, please, INEC did not employ your PA. INEC employed you to collate. Keep your PA away. Basically, that's all. Because you have instances like that. Oh, okay, this prof's PA or whatever, and I should be here. No, it is not allowed. Also, these security agents is security agents on election duties, not just because you are carrying gun or you are police. In fact, they are not even allowed to come with guns close to either collation areas or polling units. Security agents on election duty, they can't. They can only patrol outside, but within the area where electoral activities are taking place, they can't. So this is why it says security agents on election duty. I remember a time that I was in Edo for election work, and then I got to this polling unit place, and one military man with a gun was threatening to shoot people. He was drunk, like he was drunk. You know how somebody will drink and the person, first of all, he shouldn't have even come near to people that are trying to vote with guns, because they are not allowed. But he came into that place with a gun and he was drunk. You'll be drunk that you're almost falling. Like I had to escalate it and all, and he was they came and they arrested him. His people came and arrested him. I wonder what, no, they have support, actually. What's his name? Akolo, they actually have support. They have tech support, so that are also INEC staff. So they actually don't need their personal assistants there. There's actually tech support, Aratex. So they don't actually need their PAs there, actually. So yeah, these are the categories of people allowed. PAs and girlfriends and boyfriends and wives and husbands. You are not employed to come and give moral support to whosoever is doing, to a collation officer. These are the categories of people that are allowed. But also sometimes you need to be smart, yeah? Like there are some odogus. When you go to some places, there are some odogus that everybody they fear for that area. Please, so you have to use wisdom to chase them if you are maybe a collation officer or something, before they will beat you. I remember Anambra elections, yeah. I was in one small village. And one guy, I was doing collation support. We tried sending that guy away. The guy refused to go. And the way he was refusing to go, like, he was looking at us like, see, if you try anything, we'll beat you in this place. So we had to let him hang around, yeah? So when you are doing election work, the first thing, yes, the rules, obey the rules. And while obeying the rules, also apply wisdom. And then you can always escalate issues when they come up. So yeah, that is that. These are the categories of people allowed articulation centers. So some of the innovations that INEC, because as a result of the Electoral Act, some of the innovations are the beavers. We've seen the beavers, or we've heard about it everywhere. Beavers. Everybody's excited about beavers. Then we also have the CSRVS. This is tech support, basically using computer Excel spreadsheets to calculate results effectively. That's what CSRVS does. The officers are posted from RA collation all the way to the highest level of collation. So to help the collation officers to calculate results accurately. Then we have now, because of the Electoral Act, we also have electronic transmission of results, which will be used in the 2023 general elections. And things to note: where there is a discrepancy between a hard copy result and an electronically transmitted result, the electronically transmitted results supersede. I didn't put the part of the Electoral Act. Sorry, I'll find it put before, or I'll send it across. But you can see clause 48, regulations and guidelines of elections for INEC. Then receiving phone calls by collation officer is prohibited under the INEC regulations. Remember, the INEC regulations have force of law because it is enacted pursuant to INEC's powers under the Constitution. So when INEC says collation officer don't receive calls, apart from the fact that it doesn't make sense and it is one kind, yeah. Imagine doing collation, and then a collation officer receives a call from, say, the governor of a state. You know how, and the governor of a state is from a particular political party. You know how the other parties will feel. And you know it's capable of disrupting that whole process. So phone calls, leave it. Collation, max, it doesn't take long. Yeah. So leave your phone calls. If you're a collation officer and you're going to do collation, just leave your phone when you are done. For the sake of the process, please. Thank you. Challenges. Like every other process, we know our system, our society is a very unique one. we have issues that other people shouldn't, like, that they don't have. Yeah. But the thing is, some of these challenges will probably be taken care of because of the innovations we have under the Electoral Act and how seamless transmission will be now. But let's call them potential challenges. Election personnel, election malpractice, interference by stakeholders, they are pretty clear. There are instances that it's either election personnel are not well trained in these processes, or there is interference by politicians or security agencies or even CSOs. Like, it's wild, yeah, that sometimes you see observers of elections. Usually they are CSOs registered. I remember in one state, we went for election, there was this observer. He was just, he was very helpful. Okay, you're good. Okay, please allow them to do their work and all. Yeah, he was actually good. So thankfully, there was no issue. So I'm just imagining a situation where maybe he was not very helpful. Maybe he was insightful or something. Because after doing his observer work, next thing, I saw him, he had removed his jacket. When we finished from the polling unit and we had moved to the next level, he was done with his work, and he was wearing a party jacket. And I said, Oga, when did you change your jacket? I said that he's the local government chairman of that political party. So from an observer, so imagine if he was somebody that decided to interfere with the process. He will have easily done it under the guise that he's an observer. So some of these challenges actually come up, yeah. This ceremonial nature and manual nature of the process. It's I should have removed this, but I still want to leave it because we are still doing some form of manual. We're doing a hybrid system, which also includes manual transmission. And it's going to probably be there for a long time. And it's not because I think it is good that it remains at least for a while, so that we'll perfect the electronic process first before we do away with the manual. And because it is the because the manual system is pretty ceremonial. You are carrying paper from one level to the other. And sometimes they can get attacked. Sometimes they can get in an accident. An election day, sometimes vehicle can spoil on the road. And Nigeria has a lot of security challenges. Now, just for example, imagine the waka that it would take to move results from one side or the other. The thing is, there are no airports in local government. So definitely you have to move results from local governments to states by road. Results, collation results, collated results from by road. So imagine the stress and the challenge. Imagine states like Maiduguri, Kaduna, Zamfara, Yobe, parts of the Southeast that have active insurgencies going on. Imagine the challenge to move those manual documents. So it's a big challenge. Yeah, it's a big challenge. Then you have oversight functions of INEC. Sometimes INEC tries. Yeah, INEC posts monitors and supervisors and all that to RAs, to local governments, to states, all the levels. But, sometimes you have someone that probably monitoring 2 local governments or a whole local government. The person cannot be in all polling units at the same time. The person cannot be in all collation centers at the same time. It's stressful. So sometimes the oversight, functions, it's not very effective. So that is why technology is important. It covers this aspect. So even if I wasn't able to go to all RAs, there's an electronic copy that has been transmitted here. So it will cover up for any other malpractice that might have taken place. Unlike when it was just strictly manual, they can change results for all they care and you won't be aware because you were not there to check the oversight. So yeah, basically these are the challenges, potential challenges, please, that may occur after during collation. And I was supposed to have stopped at challenges, but I decided to add a few Gara. So one of the things I added is issuing of certificate of return. Well, after elections, when a person is declared winner, he doesn't just go now. I mean, somebody wants something, you don't want to give him certificate to show that he won. And when you graduate from school, say they used to give us certificates. So you have to give the person that won election certificate. So the Electoral Act says in Section 72 that every candidate declared and returned as winner should be issued with a certificate of return within 14 days. It used to be 7 days, but because of the volume of work, yeah, imagine general elections now, yeah, and you have to issue certificates, say presidential elections and National Assembly elections. They hold on the same day. You have 109 senatorial seats. You have 360 House of Assembly. Then you have a presidential. You have to cross-check the results and all, blah, 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 blah. So it was exciting. You have to print the certificates you it's not something you say you will have printed and kept. You don't know who will win election now. So it's when the elections results have been declared, all winners have been declared, that you now start printing with the person's name and all. And after that, you have to also cross-check that the names you put are correct. So basically, it takes 14 days now because of the volume of work, to print and issue certificate of return. Now, I also mentioned electoral petitions. Basically, the Constitution says the only way you can challenge an election is through petition. You can't go and fight the person. You can't go and do whatever. If you feel like this person shouldn't have won, I'm the one that should have won, you need to go through the court. So there is only one way to challenge election results, and that is through election petitions filed at election tribunals. The tribunals are set up 30 days before elections and open their registry 7 days before elections. For presidential elections, the Court of Appeal is the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. From there, they appeal to the Supreme Court directly. For governorship, you have the Governorship Election Tribunal, Section 285(2) of the Constitution. For National Assembly and State House of Assembly elections, you have the National and State House of Assembly Election Tribunal, Section 285(1) of the Constitution. Election petitions are to be filed 21 days after the date for declaration of results happen today. The date starts counting from tomorrow. So you count 14 days. Sorry, 21 days, not 14. Can you hear me? Can you still hear me? I got okay. Okay. So yeah. A National and State House of Assembly Tribunal consists of a chairman and 4 members. For governorship election, it is a chairman and 2 members. All chairmen are members of the, sorry, I don't know why I said chairman. Okay, because of the language of the Constitution. I prefer using chairperson, please. And members of both tribunal are judges of high courts. Okay, and not just high court, sorry, and customary courts of appeal and Sharia courts of appeal. Sorry for that oversight. The tribunal shall deliver judgment with in 180 days from the date of filing of the Constitution. This is section 2856 of the Constitution. Appeals from election tribunal shall be heard within 60 days from the date it is filed. The Court of Appeal is the final court for appeals emanating from National and State House of Assembly election tribunal. The Supreme Court is the final court for governorship and presidential election tribunals. So in 2009, I think, INEC decided to set up an ADR unit, basically to resolve election disputes, because a lot of other countries were using ADR to resolve election disputes. But the thing is, where the shortcoming is that our law is very strict on number of days to resolve, to go to court. You have to file within 21 days. The petition has to be heard within 180 days and judgment given. So, if it's you that you have 21 days to file, will you go and start doing romance in ADR? No, you go to court straight. ADR can wait or whatever. So it became difficult to actually implement. So the kind of disputes that ended up there are mostly like intra-party disputes, like chairmanship positions within the party, executive disputes, and all that. And that's what INEC started helping political parties provide ADR services to them, mainly mediation and negotiations and all that. So that's why I put ADR. INEC has an ADR unit where you provide free ADR services to political parties and other stakeholders, CSOs and all that. All you need to do is just write to them and say, please, we need mediation in our matter. Oh, sorry. Actually, I'm so sorry. ADR is alternative dispute resolution. Basically settling disputes outside the traditional court system. Instead of going to court and arguing and making enemies, ADR basically says, oh, okay, let's come and talk. Let's talk like two same human beings and let's resolve our disputes. So now you see how hard it is for politicians in Nigeria to actually say, okay, let's go and do ADR. I lost this election. And moreover, the law doesn't adequately cover it. So that's basically it. So I've come to the end of my slides. If we have questions or if there are any questions I need to answer, please, let's get on it. It's already past 6. That's the end of the class. Thank you so much.
Now this is your so now it's going next. You send me when.
Hello, Talia. We can't hear you talking. You are talking on the background.
That's what you used to say. That's what you used to say. Don't disturb me on Saturday. That's what you say. Tomorrow now, that's how they were. And that's the last time the excuse they gave. Now goes on, they can transfer.
Sorry, I've been talking and I muted myself. Oh, God. Any question? If you have a question, you can raise up your hand. So I unmute you. If there are no questions, then I can end the class. Any questions? Okay, Quado Benedicta Dufan. Please ask your question. Oh, sorry, let me okay, you've been unmuted.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you for the class. My question is, like you said, if there is discrepancy, the electronically transmitted result takes precedence. So what if, is there a possibility that the electronically transmitted result was hacked and the manual is like the original? I mean, is there like a provision for something like that if something like that happens, or is the system so airtight that it can't be hacked? That's actually my question. What if the electronically transmitted result is the wrong one and the manual is the correct one? How would that be sorted out?
The law is actually quite silent on that, but I'm thinking, like everything else, the INEC system is pretty, INEC will tell you that their system is pretty, what's the tech word? Anti-hacking. Well, there's no system that is anti-hacking, but it's pretty solid. But of course, if where a system is hacked, INEC could be aware that their system has been hacked. And where that happens, of course, they'll have to come up with new rules on how to approach that result, because at that point, the results may not be correct or whatever. But also, don't forget that if a system is hacked, it means that at some point, the good result will probably have entered the same system. So I'm sure they will have a way of sorting it, even though we've not encountered that yet. I don't think in any of the elections we didn't encounter it in Osun or Ekiti. Well, of course, yeah, that's a very good question. Only INEC can actually answer that question and tell us, okay, how effective is your system and what will you do? But the law on this is actually silent. At least I've not seen it. It just talks about where there's discrepancy between, manual and transmitted. But it doesn't actually say, okay, what happens when the system is hacked? I think we'll need to reevaluate it and probably provide for something like that. But for now, the law is silent and the guidelines are silent too. I'm sorry if I could not answer your question. Well, I do not have enough knowledge to answer that, because it's only INEC that can effectively answer that question to our, basically it's only INEC that can answer that question. But I hope I've done at least provided.
If you have questions, you can drop. Okay.
So sorry, please can you unmute Charles Azumara? Let me see if I can. Okay,
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Charles.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Earlier on, you made mention of the factor of neutrality for those ad hoc staff that are reputed by INEC.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, is it an acceptable practice to still have these INEC staff exercise their voting rights during that day?
Good question, great question. Now, the thing is, most people, depending on where you registered, if you registered in the polling unit where you will do your work, of course, you can vote. You're a Nigerian, you're entitled to that right. That right supersedes every other thing. Now, the oath of neutrality and loyalty simply says that just because I voted candidate A doesn't mean I will use the process to favor him. That's basically it. It doesn't mean I cannot vote. It just says once you will not do anything to jeopardize the system, basically. But because mostly INEC staff are posted away from where they actually registered to vote, it's usually not possible for them to vote. But if by chance, let's say something happens and you are posted to where you register, of course you can vote. Nothing stops you from voting. But the law is don't use, because you made a choice, doesn't mean you should use the system to favor who you think you voted or who you voted for. Basically, that is it. I hope I've been able to answer your question properly. All right. Any other question? This class, people don't like asking questions. I remember my last class. Hey, those ones, they finished. If there are no other questions, if you have any question later, you can pass it across Maureen to send it to me. I'll do a voice note or something that can be shared on your group. So if there's no other question, I need to go. If it's fine, Maureen, we can end the class now. Or Charlie, you're also a co-host.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think Talia is having network issues.
Okay.
I think she's talking actually, but we can't hear her. And me, I'm on mute. Thank you so much for the class. Really appreciate. Thank you for always doing this. It's been an insightful class.
Thank you so much.
We can all unmute our mics and say thank you to the facilitator.
Thank you so much, ma'am. God bless you. I really learned a lot.
Thank you, ma'am.